Hello, my name is Oscar Faulkner, and today I'm joined by Sharon Lamb, partner at McDermott, 𝘀𝗶𝗲𝗄.
Okay.
How is healthcare investment looking in the UK right now?
So at the moment, I think we have a very buoyant space. In fact, 2025, particularly from June onwards, was one of the busiest periods of investing I've seen since just after the pandemic, which is saying something. And that has continued into 2026. There are a lot of very good assets that have been held back that are on the market now, and I think we're looking forward to a really busy period. And there are a couple of additional kind of factors that I think have really contributed to that in the beginning of 2026. The first is, of course, that there are some significant geopolitical factors ongoing, and that has focused the minds on stable jurisdictions where you have a single or a likely stable government and continued investment in services and demand. The second point is that there's been a lot of focus on agentic AI and the effect that AI will have on some healthcare technologies. Where investors are looking for defensive or resilient stocks where you can't really anticipate what the outcome of that kind of technology will be, healthcare services remains resilient because, first of all, people are going to continue to need care, and there is a strong and significant human element in the provision of care, which means that it's a pretty defensive position to be in. And second of all, the underlying drivers, so the population demographics that drive the demand for healthcare, continue to exist. And so whilst, it may not always have been the most sexy place to focus, I think in times particularly of geopolitical instability and technological changes, it remains a really popular and kind of a key space to invest capital.
Is there still a valuation gap between seller expectations and buyer valuations?
I think in some subsectors we still see a valuation gap, and that's probably in areas where there were investments at the top of the heady part of the market, say in 2021. But generally, there's been a narrowing of the gap, and sellers are more realistic. We also see, in terms of managing that gap, creative ways of approaching sales processes. So it may not be all conventional, kind of all guns blazing auction process. There's a lot more bilateral discussions. There may be processes that are not processes, and kind of sellers being creative about finding their market.
How are the opportunities for foreign healthcare companies looking to expand into Europe right now? What are the key factors they should keep in mind?
Well, for the reasons I gave already at the beginning about why, for example, investing in the UK is a resilient and good place to be investing capital, I think the same applies across Europe. And for Europe more widely, I think the European Commission is also embarking on a simplification regime, particularly for medical devices and AI, that I think is a very positive step. But all of the same factors that applied to the UK applied to investing in Europe. The one note that I'd give for investors into Europe is, of course, it's not a homogeneous single country. Domestic rules still apply, particularly in the provision of healthcare, and so there shouldn't be kind of assumptions made about either reimbursements or governmental priorities, particularly where it comes to the delivery of care or the engagement of staff. So it's really important to kind of look under the skin not only of the business, but of where a government's intending to go on pricing and policy.
Thank you very much.